I, 34 female, was with Liam, 35 male, for over a decade. We had 2 children together before we broke up when I learned he was cheating on me with Ella, 30, female. Ella was pregnant at the time of their affair, and both of them were smug about starting a family with my kids. My children were young enough to potentially see Ella as a second mother in their lives. Ella was very nasty, claiming she could provide for them better because her parents were wealthy and she would become their #1 mom in no time. We ended up with shared custody of our children, with a week-on, week-off schedule. My ex and I had to meet at a neutral location, as per our custody order, to reduce conflict and any issues with exchanging our children. The judge also ruled that Ella could not be present during exchanges as she had used alienating language towards me in front of our children. My ex and Ella were shocked when her family did not support them after realizing she had helped him cheat and become pregnant with someone who already had a family. They ended up struggling, while I was doing better than ever after making a career shift I had wanted to do for a while. They eventually realized this just after they had their daughter and got married. Suddenly, their daughter's name was changed to my name. They started being overly friendly with me, saying my kids deserved one family unit and that their daughter was named after me, making her my kid's little sister. They claimed she needed someone to support her and give her the same life as her siblings. I told them they were crazy and that I was not their daughter's anything. Since then, they have had 2 more girls, and apparently they tell them that I am their aunt or other mom. The oldest of the 3 is always trying to seek me out. My ex brings her during exchanges with our kids, and she rushes out of the car with them. My kids have told me how uncomfortable this makes them, but they are not allowed to correct it. I told my ex he needed to say something, and I said the same thing to Ella, but she did not listen. A few days ago, their oldest sought me out again and asked if she could stay with me when my kids are with me. She said she was glad I was her aunt and other mom. I kindly but firmly told her that I was not her aunt or mom. She got upset and ran back to her parents, and then Ella blamed me for breaking her daughter's heart. She claimed she was only trying to be friendly and make the best of the family situation for the kids, and I was the one at fault. I feel bad that the little girl was devastated, but I have no interest in being a part of their family. I am not involved in those 3 girls' lives in any way except when I see them for my kids. Am I the one at fault? It appears that Ella's parents have disowned her due to the scandal. That's why she's struggling, and it's not surprising. Karma has hit her and your ex hard in the face. That's why they're trying to win your favor. Me. You are definitely not at fault, OP. You may need to go back to court to put a stop to this. Your ex has no right to bring this girl to the exchange, making your children uncomfortable. Your ex and his affair partner deserve each other. It's unfortunate for the kids, though. She's playing a manipulative, long game, hoping you'll eventually give in. I feel sorry for the child who has obviously been fed a pack of lies. That must be painful, but it has nothing to do with you. Your ex should also take responsibility here. He started this crazy situation. It's his daughter. Whoa, just wow. Honestly, OP, I think what you did was the kindest thing in the long run. That child needed to understand that she will not have a relationship with you. And to be honest, her parents have used her to force a relationship with you in order to gain more money or whatever else they're after. I've never heard of someone changing their child's name after birth. That's just strange. These people are very peculiar, to say the least. I mean this in the nicest way when I say I'm glad you're no longer with your ex. He obviously has issues along with his new wife based on their behavior. The insanity of some people never ceases to amaze me. So before people roll their eyes, cringe, and scream at the sight of the word Christmas, please hear me out. I am a young adult female. I still live with my parents and my 2 brothers, 1 teenager and 1 young teen. My mother has 2 older children, a half-brother who is 29 and a half-sister who is 27. My mother divorced their father right after she became pregnant with her youngest child. They had already broken up before my mother gave birth to their daughter. But things were never easy. My mother met my father 2 years after the divorce, and they got married after 3 years together. They had us and everything should have been fine, if not good. However, their father did not want my father or me and my brothers to be important in his and my mother's children's lives. He used every form of parental alienation he could. It was messy. My mother was eventually granted full custody, but then he sued again, wanting to have a relationship with them once they were teenagers. During all of this, my mother had them in therapy, including family therapy. They were difficult to be around. They did not treat us well, and they did not treat my father well. They would treat us terribly, calling us names and saying they wished we had never been born, or that their father would come and make us pay for being born. This kind of behavior was common, and then they were gone. They mostly lived with their father. A few years ago, we started seeing them more, but they still did not like us. Neither did their spouses. My half-sister has 2 kids, and we're not allowed to interact with her kids. She tells her kids, my brothers, and I are mistakes that Grandma made, and that my dad is ignored by them entirely. Every Christmas, they spend time with us, and it's awful. My brothers and I hate it. My dad hates it. But we have to deal with it for Mom. Dad does so willingly. The rest of us not so much. Last Christmas was the worst one yet. Mom's son is expecting a baby with his wife. And all the while they were celebrating, we were ignored. And then I heard her kids talk about us being so annoying and in their faces simply for being present. Half-sister's husband made one joke to me the whole time, saying they'd just have to make their Christmas wish that none of us would be there, and their family could be together next year. That was all he said to me the whole time. I'm just so done. Mom will never let them go. Dad will never want to see her sad. I don't want to deal with it. So I told them I was done with family Christmas after they started talking about it a few weeks ago, that I will not be with them celebrating. I might be just underage, but they cannot expect me to spend the rest of my holidays being treated like I was a mistake and shouldn't be here because I was born, which is not something I can control. Mom was so upset, then she told me I had no say. So I told them I would stay in my room, but I was not going to hang out with people who despise me and literally wish us all dead. Because we all know it's what they do. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot at all. And it's disgusting that your mother lets her other children behave that way. Your mom should have been protecting you. Really, she should have nipped this in the bud years ago. But if she was aware of their actions and did nothing to stop it, that's as good as implicit permission for cruel kids. Now they're adults and still acting like spiteful, nasty kids. If you have the means and ways to protect yourself from that, especially since they seem incapable, then go for it. Your mom may never let them go, and your dad may not want to see her upset, but they seem to have missed the point that they have lost you and made you upset. And you're still children who deserve protection from their parents. Please, stand up for yourself. Hide, refuse to interact, whatever it takes. But, yes, make it clear you are no longer part of this sanctioned abuse. Whatever it takes to make your parents realize they've subjected you to torment for long enough and are nearly out of time to fix it. Edit. That's not a tense Christmas. That's an abusive environment. And you do have a choice. I wonder what Mom would say when you go no contact, because of the treatment of her older children. My husband asked if I wanted to go to Saint-Tropez with the kids, because his family was going. I said no, because I'm 6 months pregnant. And I had complications early on, and I'm worried the same will happen again, which would be even more terrifying while stuck on a boat away from home. He tried to convince me nothing would happen, and I was being overcautious, but I wouldn't change my mind, so he seemed to give up. He went to Saint-Tropez with the kids without telling me they were going, and called me once they arrived to persuade me I had to come, since the kids were already there. I was so angry at him and worried about the kids that my first instinct was to go immediately. But as I was packing, I changed my mind. I told him I wasn't coming, and that he was horrible for taking the kids behind my back, but I hoped it was worth it for him. He continued to try to persuade me for a few days, and he got upset that I wouldn't come even after my youngest bawled his eyes out because he missed me. He ended up coming home yesterday without the kids because My sister made it seem like I was unwell because of what he did. We had an argument because I still had a lot of pent-up anger from when he originally took the kids. He's upset at me for not joining them and thinks I'm using the pregnancy as an excuse, since he said I would have just as good medical care in Saint-Tropez as at home if I needed it. He kept bringing up how our youngest had cried for me and I had ignored him. Am I the idiot? He did what? Is he normally that controlling? Who thinks my pregnant wife, who has health concerns, won't do what I want? So I'll take the kids without telling her and manipulate her into doing what I want. You picked a doozy for a spouse, OP. I'd be rethinking my life choices if I were you. Not the idiot. He tried to use children as a bargaining chip. They aren't his tools to make you do what he wants you to do. But are the kids still there without either of you? Your youngest was already crying without you. I can't imagine how frightened they are without their dad as well. Poor kids. Your husband put them through quite an ordeal. Possibly even something traumatic, just because he wanted to force you to come on a vacation. Oh my god, he left the kids with your in-laws. He did something childish because he didn't get his way and wants to blame you because it made the kiddo cry? Geez, what a real winner he is. This is a therapy and divorce type situation. What he did was abusive. Call a lawyer today and get their advice about the whole situation. And if I were you, I would either be sending someone to retrieve my children, or having the in-laws return them immediately. No matter how safe or how much fun they're having, you didn't give permission for them to travel out of the country, or to travel alone with your in-laws. The children are also traveling without anyone permitted to make medical decisions in case of an infection, or a broken limb, or worse. You should also tell your doctor what has happened and is still happening. The effects of this on your body are something they need to monitor. Don't downplay this with them or with yourself. Lawyer today, emergency therapy today or tomorrow. I'm 61 years old, female, and I have 2 children, a 41-year-old son and a 39-year-old daughter. My children are currently in a dispute over money that my son loaned to my daughter over 10 years ago. This situation is causing a lot of tension within our family, and I'm seeking advice from others. 10 years ago, my son generously gave my daughter $20,000 to start a business, which was a pleasant surprise. However, the problem arose when my daughter never actually started the business. Now every Thanksgiving, my son asks my daughter if she plans on repaying him, which has become quite annoying for everyone else who just wants to enjoy the holiday. My daughter often promises to pay him back, but then drops the subject. Her fiancé is also tired of the constant harassment over the money. Recently, my daughter had a bachelorette party, which was a fun and enjoyable event with male dancers and cheesecake. However, the next day, we were served with a lawsuit from my son, who is suing my daughter for the money she owes him. I was upset and called my son a disappointment. But he explained that after 10 years of waiting, he has no choice but to take legal action. I am torn and unsure if I am in the wrong here. Just to clarify, my daughter has not paid back the $20,000 that my son gave her to start a business 10 years ago, and you are upset because he brings it up every Thanksgiving, which has happened for the past 10 years. Instead of encouraging your daughter to repay the money, you get upset because it interrupts the holiday meal. It is also concerning that your daughter can afford to throw a lavish bachelorette party with multiple dancers and cheesecake, but she cannot repay her debt to her brother. I am confused as to why you consider your son a disappointment for taking legal action in this matter. It is clear that your daughter has no intention of paying him back, and you are enabling her behavior by complaining about your son's actions. Your daughter is in the wrong for not repaying the money she borrowed, and your son is well within his rights to seek repayment, including interest, after 10 years. I am estranged from my sister, who used to be a close friend of my then best friend when we were growing up. However, when I was 16, my then best friend started dating a guy who was not a good influence, and my sister continued to be friends with them. I was with a guy who ended up having a crush on me. I had no idea. Suddenly she turned into a bully, and she bullied me horrifically, to the point where I was moved after only 2 months into the school year, because she had leaked personal information about me to the entire school. This was information she knew because she was supposed to be my best friend, but she spread it everywhere. Despite all of this, my sister remained friends with her. Not only that, but when I told my sister that it upset me, she called me a controlling brat for thinking I could ask her to end the friendship. That was when I realized I had lost two people. First, my parents tried to keep my sister away from my former best friend, but she insisted on being allowed to have whatever friends she wanted. Their friendship lasted for several more years before they stopped being friends. But by then, it was too much for me. My sister even brought this girl to events she knew I would be at, under the guise of being allowed to bring friends. It was traumatic for me, and over time I grew to hate my sister for subjecting me to that. She attempted to apologize a couple of years ago, but I didn't want to hear it. Now I am engaged, and I warned my parents that my sister would not be receiving an invitation. My brothers told me that our parents seemed to mention my sister in the speeches they were preparing, and they wanted to give me a heads up since they didn't seem to want to listen to them. When I brought it up to my parents, they said they couldn't ignore the fact that she exists, as most people know I have a sister. I reminded them that those people also know that we no longer speak. I told them I didn't want them to mention her at my wedding. They told me I was being unfair, especially since she attempted to apologize, but I stopped her. We are now not on the best of terms, and my parents think I'm being unfair. But if they can't celebrate my day without bringing up my estranged sister, maybe they shouldn't attend either. My wedding is not about her, them, or any fantasies they have of forcing a reconciliation. Parents are not required to give a speech. Typically, it is just the best man and maid of honor who give a toast. None of the weddings I have attended had the parents of the bride and groom give a speech or a toast, but I'm no expert on these things. I don't understand why a speech or toast at my wedding would even mention my sister. It should be about love, our relationship, and congratulations on our newest milestone together. If I were you, I would not allow my parents to give a speech to prevent any potential drama. I agree, revoke their privilege to give a speech. It is my wedding, not a Dr. Phil episode. My ex was a notorious attention seeker, and at my daughter's wedding, the DJ was instructed to keep the microphone away from my ex, and he did. My ex was quite disappointed. I hope your wedding goes well. I put my phone away from my ex, and he seemed quite disappointed. I hope your wedding goes well.